Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea, one that might just change how you look at success, forever.
I mean, think about it. It's a question we almost never ask, right? We see that wealthy neighbor, that super successful CEO, and we automatically assume it's skill, genius even. But today, we're going to dig into Nassim Taleb's classic, Fooled by Randomness, and we're going to really challenge that assumption.
And Taleb's central point is, well, it's a bombshell, really. He says our brains are basically pattern-matching machines. We're wired to create these neat little stories of cause and effect for everything, even when, and this is the kicker, even when there's nothing there but pure random dumb luck.
You know, we look at a successful founder and we craft this whole narrative about their genius vision, totally forgetting about the thousands of other people who had almost the exact same plan but just got unlucky. So how does this actually happen? Why are we so easily fooled? Let's break down some of the biggest mental traps that make us all, well, fools of randomness.
All right, so our first big mental trap is this powerful illusion, and it's all based on a really simple mistake. We only pay attention to what we can see. Taleb calls this survivorship bias, and it creates this kind of invisible graveyard of failures that we never, ever account for.
And to really get this, Taleb uses this fantastic thought experiment. Okay, so just imagine a starting pool of 10,000 investment managers. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that none of them have any special skill. Zero. Their success or failure is just a pure 50-50 coin flip each year.
So after year one, what happens? Well, pure chance dictates that half of them are going to have a good year. So boom, we're left with 5,000 winners. And the other 5,000? They disappear. They're the first ones to go into that invisible graveyard. We never hear about them again.
Okay, so let's keep it going. We do it again. By the end of year 2, half of the remaining 5,000 succeed, so we have 2,500. Then by the end of year 3, we're down to just 1,250 managers. Now think about that. These are people who have had 3 straight years of success just by flipping a coin.
And this is where the trap snaps shut. What do? We look at these few survivors, we put them on magazine covers, we write books about their secret strategies, and we call them geniuses. All the while, we're completely ignoring that massive graveyard of almost 9,000 others who failed along the way. That, right there, is how pure, simple luck gets dressed up to look exactly like skill.
Okay, so that idea of survivorship bias leads us right into our second big myth, this really dangerous idea that the past is a perfect map for the future. And this isn't a new idea, it's a classic philosophical trap. It's called the problem of induction.
Basically, all it means is this. Just because something has always happened a certain way, that doesn't logically guarantee it's going to keep happening that way. You know, the past is not some magical force that dictates the future, especially in a world that's packed with randomness.
The classic example for this really paints a perfect picture. Just imagine you spend your entire life and you see millions of swans, and every single one of them is white. You build this mountain of evidence, right? Your theory, all swans are white, it seems totally unbreakable.
And then one day, you see a black one. A single black swan. In an instant, that one observation completely shatters your entire theory. And that single, totally game-changing event, that's what Taleb famously calls a black swan.
And here's the thing, history is driven by these kinds of events. We're talking about massive market crashes, the start of world wars, the invention of the internet. They're totally impossible to predict beforehand, but after they happen, everyone goes, oh yeah, of course that was going to happen. So the real lesson here is huge. In a random world, you absolutely have to prepare for the event you literally can't foresee.
All right, our last myth for today gets into how we completely misunderstand probability. We tend to think it's just about the odds, right? How likely is something to happen? But Taleb, coming from his background as a trader, shows us that there's actually a much more important piece of the puzzle. He tells this great story about being in a meeting once, and everyone is hounding him for a prediction. Nassim, is the market going to go up or is it going to go down? And his answer just confused everybody, but it revealed a totally different way of thinking about risk that, well, it changes the entire game. So here's what he said, and it perfectly illustrates this point. On one hand, you have the probability. He told him, yeah, I think there's probably a 70% chance the market will go up. But then you have the payoff, or the consequence. And his actual bets were positioned for the market to go down. Why on earth would he do that? Because he knew that in that unlikely 30% chance that it went down, it wouldn't just be a little dip. It could be a catastrophic crash. And the payoff from betting on that rare event would be absolutely massive.
This is a concept called asymmetry, and it means the key question isn't just what are the odds. The far more important question is, what are the consequences if I'm wrong? It's not about being right most of the time. It's about making sure you can survive and maybe even profit from those few times you are spectacularly, catastrophically wrong.
Okay, so let's recap. We've looked at these huge mental traps, right? We only see the winners, not all the losers in the graveyard. We trust the past way too much. And we focus on the simple odds instead of the potential consequences. So the big question is, what do we do about it? How do we actually use this in our own lives?
Well, Taleb gives us a pretty practical framework. First things first, be a skeptic, a healthy skeptic. When you hear those perfect, neat stories explaining someone's success, question them. Second, stop trying to prove yourself right all the time. Instead, actively try to prove yourself wrong. Ask yourself, what evidence could show me that my belief is false? And finally, and this might be the most important one, protect yourself from the big blow-up. Focus on avoiding that one catastrophic event, that one black swan that could completely wipe you out.
And that's really the heart of it all. Look, we can't stop the world from being random. We're never going to be able to control luck, Lady Fortuna, as he calls her. But the one thing we can control is our own behavior. Our skepticism, how we prepare, and how we react. That's where our real power is.
So, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. In your own life, your career, your investments, maybe even your deepest beliefs, what's that one thing you're absolutely certain about? And then ask yourself, what would happen if you found out that certainty was nothing more than a long, uninterrupted streak of good luck?